You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we're covering Maryland. So, Kenzie.
Yes, Lauren.
Let's get scary.
Okay.
Happy 420 to all of the 420 people. That is the day we're recording.
Or happy Thursday.
Or happy Thursday.
Sometimes it just hurts. No rhyme or reason. It gets gas.
Gas that hurts your boob?
Well, you know, it's all up here.
I have never had gas that has made my boobs hurt.
Okay, well, yours don't cover up half your torso.
That is true, but I just don't see how that can relate to
I don't know.
up here.
It's right here.
There are some difficulties happening up here right now. If you're a woman and you've ever gotten gas or something and
No, not gas. It's like every time I go like this, it hurts also up here, which is why I was like, oh, is it gas? Because that's where my stomach is. And that's like gas.
Oh.
Versus when you got a poo, it's your lower intestine. Trust me, as a chronic stomach issue person, I know the difference between my stomach pains.
Mackenzie, what's your very unique body thing that happens when you have to poo?
No, if that is something that we share with the masses. Because it's fucking weird, okay? They already think I'm weird enough.
If they're gonna keep thinking we're weird, so you might as well just...
All right, you know what? I'm going to do this because maybe someone has an explanation.
And then Mackenzie won't be alone.
Right. Because Google is not helpful.
You Googled it?
Of course I did.
Okay, yeah. I would have done the same thing.
So when I really, really have to go to the bathroom, like really have to go, and like stomach is like, ooh, not happy, but I really have to go, I get like a sharp little pain in the center of my hand.
Is it the same hand?
Yeah, it's always my left. It's like right, it's kind of like below my thumb, but it's like right along here. So thumb, center, middle, whatever.
So if anyone can relate.
I'm telling you, I think somehow my wires got plugged into the wrong spots.
I think they probably did.
And so things that, you know, like sometimes I'll get like it feels like almost like a pinprick in my, right here. Mm-hmm. And I'll feel it like right there too.
So she's pointing to her finger in her neck because they can see us.
I don't know. Weird things happen that are not pleasant at different points that don't seem to have any correlation to each other.
Yeah. It's what makes you special and unique.
That's one way to put it.
Well, do we want to jump into Maryland?
Of course.
All right, Mackenzie, tell us about Maryland.
Our neighbors to the north. Just on the other side of the Beltway.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at a map of the Beltway?
No.
It's truly like a circle.
Dad would always question me, are we inside or outside of the Beltway? And then we'd go somewhere else. He's like, is this inside or outside of the Beltway? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. I understood the concept because I asked my dad. I was like, what does the inner loop and outer loop means? He's like, the side that's closer to DC and the side that's not closer to DC.
Oh, that makes sense.
And I was like, what? No. I was like, no, that sounds far too simple.
Is that really it?
Yeah.
Oh. Here we are thinking it's like some weird thing.
It's just literally the inner and then the outer.
They weren't unique with that at all.
Mm-mm. And half the time you're either going north and then eventually you're going east, and then at some point you might be going west because you go in a circle.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And DC, I shit you not, is smack dab in the middle.
Because it's the nation's capital.
Right.
Yeah. What is clinging? Do you hear it?
Oh, touching.
Thank you. My God.
Okay.
There's so much stuff on this cable that when things clink together, I'm like, what is it?
So anyway, Maryland. Maryland has been inhabited for over 12,000 years.
Whoa.
Did you know that the Appalachian Mountains that we share with our fellow Eastern coasters?
Mm-hmm. Eastern coasters?
Mm-hmm. So they are actually really, really old, which is why they're like more really big hills.
Uh-huh.
Less like jagged versus like the Rocky Mountains are newer, which is why they're more like
rocky.
Well, no. Not like rocky. I mean, like wind erosion hasn't
Smoothed them.
smoothed them down.
Interesting.
Learned that when I had to teach 5th graders about erosion.
Wow.
It rode away.
Wow.
Mhm. Anyway, the state crustacean of Maryland is the blue crab. Does everyone have a crustacean?
No. Some places have really weird things like the state dinosaur, the state fossil.
I feel like you can't say the state blah, blah, blah if you're the only state that has it.
Well, it's their state crustacean, the blue crab.
It's like, for me, in my head, it correlates to how when the team wins the Super Bowl and they're like, world champions. I'm like, we're the only one playing. Like, no one else is playing this game.
National champions, yes.
Yes.
World champions?
Like, same vibes for me. Anyway. So this comes as no surprise came as a surprise to me. I wanted a state crustacean.
Well, yeah, but the fact that it's the blue crab, they're very particular about their crabs.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes. Blue crab is no
Maryland.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to tell you my thought process when I read the next one.
Okay.
I saw Roy is part CBR, but in my head it was CPR. And I was like, does that mean that he knows how to do it? And then I looked up and I saw Chesapeake Bay Retriever, and then I realized that the P was a B.
Yeah.
So their state dog is the Chesapeake Bay Retriever. And Roy Boy.
The slow glance to you.
Wow, what was that side eye, sir? What was that side eye?
Mr. Bubba's is part Chesapeake Bay Retriever.
Yes, that was the end. So their official state sport is jousting. Ah, you know what? That makes sense. Have you ever been to medieval times?
No. But I know they joust.
See, I haven't been since I was a kid when I was a hella picky eater. And now I would love to go there and have a big old chicken leg because they don't give you utensils because
Right.
we should go.
Okay.
So that makes sense that it's jousting.
So we'll go there and then we'll go to where the things I talk about took place. It's not, you'll see.
Anyway. All right. I'm trusting you. The state exercise is walking. Love that.
I know.
And it became a state exercise on October 1st, 2008. Maryland is the narrowest width of any United States. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
In the Hancock area, it is less than 2 miles wide. Is that like a little handle?
Yeah, like right up there.
Yeah. Maryland has 4 constitutions. I almost said constituent. It's constituents. At least I'm like kind of close.
Yeah.
Lauren thinks she's mentioned this in the last round of Maryland state facts, but the name Ouija was coined by Helen Peters, a spiritual medium. She started using the board at what is now a 7-Eleven. And there's even a plaque there to commemorate this. The town of Boring is a real town. Oh, yes, we've passed that.
Really?
Also the town of Accident.
Oh.
It's on your way up to Deep Creek. And it only has 40 houses.
So boring.
So boring. In 1774, the post office created... The post office created Baltimore. It's like almost like I knew as I was going to continue that I fucked it up somewhere along the way.
You tried to catch it when you were getting... I'll get this.
Anyway, the first one was made in Baltimore. Baltimore is also considered to be one of the most dangerous cities in the United States. In 2002, Harold Benjamin Dean, a convicted murderer, became the first and only person to escape from Maryland's Supermax Penitentiary. He did so by squeezing through an 8-inch by 22-inch window, then climbed over the razor wire using a rope made of clothing. Was he ever caught?
I don't know. It says he became the first and only person to escape. So maybe no.
I must feel like, yeah, let him go at that point.
Right. You're like, you did so much.
Worked so
Awarded for
hard.
your efforts.
Maryland has Chessie, the sea monster that lives in the Chesapeake Bay. She is said to be about 30 feet in length and has been spotted in the bay sporadically since the early 1940s. Moll Dyer was a woman from Leonardtown. Didn't I talk about her?
Moll Dyer?
Yeah.
When?
when we were talking about witches.
Maybe we'd have to look at your notes. Well, read it and see if you remember anything about this.
She was the witch.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But there were other facts about her.
Yes, she was driven out in the 17th century after being accused of being a witch. Cool. I did talk about it. I just don't remember. So, ha ha ha. Anyway, she was driven out in the 17th century after accused of being a witch. And not long after that, her body was found frozen, which you can also hear more in-depthly about this story to our witches episode, available wherever you get your podcast. It is believed that her spirit haunts the land. Local lore says that corpses won't grow. No. I'm like so close too. Local lore says that crops won't grow in the area. Severe weather occurs disproportionately, and a mysterious white dog is seen on Mall Dyer Road, causing numerous car accidents. Yes, I talked about that too.
Mm-hmm.
The Blair Witch Project took place in Maryland, scarred for life, which leads some credence to the witch's grave of Truxton Park. Legend goes that a witch once lived and died in Truxton Park in Annapolis. She was buried in the woods by a slanted tree in the 1800s, but her body disappeared and has never been found. Even to this day, there are reports of bodies dangling from the tree, usually popping up around Halloween. Shocker. Francis Scott Key, a lawyer from Maryland, wrote The Star-Spangled Banner in 1814. The English were bombing us.
Mm-hmm.
And the rocket red Still think it's weird we do that. Not like the national anthem, but the pledge. I don't understand why we do that.
Yeah.
Carl Ripken Jr. and Babe Ruth are from Maryland. Who's the first one? I know who the second one is.
Cal Ripken, and Babe Ruth, they're both baseball players.
Oh, I only knew the second one was one. My stepfather was a big Yankees fan, and just because I didn't want to be. And I used the excuse that my mom went to school in Boston.
So are you a Red Sox fan?
Mm-hmm. Just out of pure spite.
I love it.
He had framed the contract that had signed him from the Red Sox to the Yankees that started the Curse of the Bambino.
Oh, boy.
And it was titled like Curse of the Bambino. And it was like the contract and then a picture of Babe Ruth in a Yankees uniform.
Wow. Men.
Anyway, Maryland is home to 2 Nobel Prize winners. What kind of Nobel Prize?
I don't know. It didn't say. It just said 2 Nobel Prize winners. I was like, good for them.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
I forgot that I have to ask you what you're talking about.
I mean, I can just go into it. All right. So tonight, I decided to cover someone who, whenever I think of this person, I think of Maryland.
That's fair.
Thank
They
you.
are from there.
Yes, that person would be Edgar Allan Poe.
That's why the Ravens are the Ravens.
Mm-hmm. So originally, Poe was born in Boston, Massachusetts on January 19th, 1809. Yeah, it does. Born to parents David and Elizabeth Poe, who were both professional traveling actors.
Oh.
David was originally from Baltimore, where he had been born on July 18th, 1784. Elizabeth had come to the U.S. from England in 1796, and the two had gotten married in 1805.
All right.
Just so long ago.
Yeah.
They had 3 children, Henry, Edgar, and Rosalie. Parents died. What was that from?
Aristocrats. Or Aristocats.
Right.
Edgar!
I forgot about that. But so tragically, at the age of only 2, both of his parents died. Henry, Edgar's brother, Henry, Edgar's brother, went to live with their grandparents.
That's
gonna be hard for the rest of this.
That's gonna be... Yeah.
I'm gonna think too much about it.
And you thought I was gonna cause a lot of screw-ups.
As I'm reading, I'm gonna be like changing his name to he throughout it. Rosalie was taken in by another family, and he was adopted. Edgar was adopted by Mr. and Miss John Allen. Mr. Allen was a successful...
Look at that.
So Mr. Allen was a successful and wealthy merchant. By age 6, Edgar was already learning Latin and French as well as math and history. When he was just 17, he was already attending some really good schools, and in 1826, he was admitted into the University of Virginia.
Hey.
Though his foster father was wealthy, he didn't give Edgar very much money to get through school. This sort of led him down a path of heavy drinking, and that soon put him into deep debt. He got involved in gambling, trying to get enough money to remain in school, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to get the money and had to quit due to the bad debt and the lack of funds.
Wow. Way to just nosedive.
We will see this continued downward spiral
Like, holy
for
shit.
Mr. Poe.
We're like on top of the world, and it's like,
I know, he was doing so well. Had a rough start starting at age 2.
That's true.
So because college wasn't really in the cards anymore, he moved back to Boston and enlisted in the Army in 1827 at only 18 years old. Okay, so he did really well in the Army. He served 2 years, and he made it up to the rank of sergeant major. That sounded really freaking high. So I looked up the roll because I don't know what they are. And I read that it's like the highest enlisted rank in the Army. So I was like, something just like whooshed by my ear. Oh, that was really scary.
Don't do that.
No, I'm not kidding. I was like doing this and I got like a really cold like rush of something past my ear. Oh, that was really uncomfortable. I'm gonna wear my hood.
You're a fucking loser. Saving that forever.
Okay, so like I said, it looked like that was the like highest enlisted rank in the Army, so I highly doubt he was able to get that in 2 years.
Well, but it was also 18 whatever.
But then another website that I read said that it takes 10 years to reach that rank. So I assume that source that said he reached the sergeant major rank was wrong. But then I looked into more sources. I was really fixated on this thing.
I could see that.
Another source said that after 2 years of service, he reached the rank of sergeant major for artillery, which is the highest enlisted rank open to him at the time. I got that information from usace.army.mil. So it seems pretty legit. So I assume he was able to get it in 2 years. But anywho. So his foster mother, Miss Allen, passed away in 1829, which sort of showed a shift in his foster dad, who started to become more friendly towards him, even signing his application to West Point. This was around the time when he really started publishing his poetry, and his first collection, Tamerlane and Other Poems, was published. This now is one of the most rare pieces of work written by Poe.
Oh, wow.
And I think I read somewhere, I didn't write it down because I didn't want to go too deep into his history because it's not super spooky, but it was something where it's like, that's not even like linked to him, but people know he wrote it, but there's nothing there that like links him to it. I don't know, it's kind of cool. So after being dismissed from the Army, he went to live with his aunt, Miss Marie Clem, in Baltimore. He lived with her and his brother Henry and his young cousin Virginia. Then in 1830, Edgar went to West Point as a cadet, but again wasn't able to stay long as he didn't have the funds, and his foster father refused to send him any additional money. It is rumored that, while at West Point, he purposely broke the rules and didn't do any of his assigned duties so that he could be dismissed. He was court-martialed on February 8th, 1831, and was convicted of dereliction of duty. Contrary to the rumor that used to be told, so the old rumor of why he was let out of like West Point was because he showed up to drill naked.
That is more fun.
It is more fun. In 1831, he headed up to New York, where some of his poems were starting to be published. He had tried to submit many different stories to different magazines, but they were all rejected. He still was financially struggling with making friends and finding work. So again, he wrote to Mr. Allen, begging for money, begging for help, but Mr. Allen never wrote him back. And when his foster dad died just a few years later in 1834, he didn't even mention Edgar in his will.
Damn.
I know. Over the next few years, his writing really took off and he started focusing on that full-time, though he was still financially struggling. He was actually the first person to try to make writing a full-time job, like to be paid for your writing.
Okay, that's cool.
But the big break for him came in 1835 when he accepted an editorship at the Southern Literary Messenger in Richmond, Virginia. He actually got this position after he won a contest with his story, The Manuscript Found in a Bottle. So I don't really go much into his writing. We know he's a writer. We know he's a poet, all that stuff. But he did write a ton of short stories, a ton of poems. He's credited for creating the detective fiction genre as well as strongly contributing to the science fiction genre.
Oh, damn. I didn't know that.
I didn't really cool. I learned so many cool things about him.
Seriously.
But back to him being in Richmond, he was missing Miss Clem and his cousin Virginia, so he actually sent them to come live with him in Richmond. It was around this time, in 1836, that he got married to his cousin Virginia.
Okay, I was just going to ask.
Who was 13 years old, and he was 27. Yeah. So what I read was like people were like, marrying cousins at this time wasn't the weird thing. They were actually more concerned about the age gap.
Okay, you know what?
There's a lot wrong with it.
I guess if I had to pick something to be concerned about, I would choose the age gap over cousins.
Or the fact that they're cousins.
Yeah, but like the age gap, because even if
All of it's bad.
yes. But the age gap, the reason it's worse than the cousins is because that's icky no matter the context.
And at this point, their age difference is more years than how old she is.
Yeah.
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 Pretty gross.
Disgusting.
And he's known her since she was like young, which is also really, it's just icky. So Poe did a lot of work while working for the Southern Literary Messenger magazine. He increased its circulation from 500 to 3,500 copies.
Wow.
But he eventually left.
Wow.
But he eventually left in 1836, complaining of poor salary. And in 1837, he went back up to New York. New York. But still, he wasn't able to make a ton of money, so he would edit other magazines as a way to earn additional money, usually also helping increase their circulation as well. And during this time, he bounced from job to job, making some money here, writing a story and getting some money there. One of the stories that made him an overnight sensation was his narrative poem, The Raven. The Raven was first seen in January of 1845 and was republished in numerous newspapers and anthologies. Children would actually follow him on the streets chanting, "Nevermore."
I don't know the poem.
Kenzie! The whole poem pretty much ends each like stanza saying like, "Only this and nevermore." I read it today because I was like, I want to read this one again. And though this poem brought him fame, it brought him no money as he was paid no more than $15 for the poem.
Damn.
He and his family moved to a small cottage in New York. This is when Virginia's health was really starting to fade, and she sadly died in 1847 from consumption, just 10 days after
What's that supposed to be again?
38th birthday, tuberculosis.
Right.
After her death, Edgar collapsed from stress and gradually over time started to regain his health back. In June of 1849, he left.
Like to collapse from stress.
I think you're close.
I think I'm pretty fun.
I don't think you want to do that, though. It's bad.
Yeah.
Hospital bills.
Yeah, but then I don't have to work.
In June of 1849, he left New York and went to Philadelphia, where he went to visit an old friend of his, John Sartain. Then in July, he headed back to Richmond and stayed at the Swan Tavern Hotel. While there, in an effort to stop his drinking, which was still really bad, he joined the Sons of Temperance. This was a society that had been founded in 1842.
Yeah. The temperance movement or whatever. Right?
Wait, really?
I don't remember when.
I don't go into that part of it.
No, I know, but I don't remember like when the push for prohibition started, but like I remember the group of people, I don't know if it was the religion or just whatever, but it was like temperance something.
Interesting. Well, these Sons of Temperance would campaign against alcohol consumption and had a pledge that went something like this.
Oh, Lord.
I am now fully determined to renounce this destructive beverage from this day to the day of my death. Yes, I do renounce it fully, totally.
Do you?
Determined to find a way to lift himself out of poverty, it is believed that Poe decided to marry wealthy.
Good idea.
Right. Can't get money yourself.
The
Find
first
another
smart
way.
thing you've done.
So he started exchanging letters and poems with a widowed poet named Sarah Helen Whitman. In September of 1848, he traveled to Providence, Rhode Island, and declared his love for her and forcefully proposed immediate marriage.
Forcefully?
Yep.
Oh my God.
He returned home and received a letter from her in the mail where she rejected this proposal.
Damn, well, yeah.
You
came on too strong,
he
buddy.
Really did. He went to her house multiple times and stuff. Come on, sir. During
yeah.
that time, he had also rekindled a young romance with a Sarah Royster Shelton, and the two planned to wed that following October. He kept bopping around, and on September 27th, he went back up to New York, then Philly, then accidentally back to Baltimore when he apparently boarded the wrong train. Then on October 3rd, he was found at a public house known as Gunner's Hall by a man named Joseph Walker. Poe was in and out of consciousness, and Walker was able to get just enough information out of him in order to find out who he was and who an acquaintance of his was. Walker wrote to that acquaintance, a Dr. Joseph Evan Snodgrass. Snodgrass. The letter said, "Dear sir, there is a gentleman, rather the worse for wear, at Ryan's 4th Ward Polls, who goes under the cognomen of Edgar A. Poe, and who appears in great distress, and he says he is acquainted with you, and I assure you he is in need of immediate assistance. Yours in haste, Jose W. Walker." Poe was taken to the Washington University Hospital, where he was still falling in and out of consciousness. It was believed that he was just drunk. As he was succumbing to death, he kept muttering the name Reynolds over and over again. But on October 7th, 1849, he died under mysterious circumstances at the age of only 40.
So he wasn't drunk.
His death was listed vaguely as congestion of the brain. There are many rumors and legends that surround his death, so no one truly knows what happened to Edgar Allan Poe. And like I mentioned, the details surrounding his death are mysterious. First off, his death certificate is said to either have been lost or had been destroyed. No one can find any information about his death anywhere. There are also a myriad of theories about what caused his death. One is alcohol poisoning.
Yeah.
Maybe a drawn-out case of rabies? Or heart disease, syphilis, cholera, or any of the other million diseases that were going around at this time.
Yeah.
And in 1872, a very popular theory was that Poe died from coping. This is a very real thing that occurred in the 19th century where violent gangs would kidnap a voter, like someone who votes, force them to ingest alcohol and or drugs, then force them to vote multiple times, usually dressed in various disguises so they could continue to cast their vote. Why people think this is because Poe was found wearing someone else's clothes. That person would be held in a room and threatened with beatings and even death until they complied. This was a common strategy to ensure a win on election day.
What an odd
It was around election season.
crime to commit.
Well, it was like a common thing that people would do. Like, it was very, like, voting and politics were really bad then, like super corrupt.
I mean, yeah.
And so they would just grab anyone they could on the streets and get them to vote multiple times.
I think it's just weird to try to think about like that ever being a possibility.
Right. But I looked this up, obviously, because I had no idea what it was. And it was like article after article about what this was and how prevalent it was. Mm-hmm. So it's like really rigging the votes into your favor to have whoever you want win.
It's like, oh yeah, local gangs kidnap voter. And it's like, that's such a, like.
I know.
I know. It just doesn't compute in my brain. Like, what?
Which is a good thing that now you have to have an ID to vote.
Yeah. And I guess really could that few people vote? Why do they have to kidnap a voter?
So that person could continue to vote. Like they would just kidnap a person.
But why couldn't they go in their disguises?
I don't know.
I think it's because they couldn't vote.
Maybe. It did not go into that at all, actually. Okay. But maybe you're right.
We can't go down this path. I will be here forever.
We will.
Keep going.
Yes, going on. So another weird fact, the last poem written by Poe was titled Annabel Lee in May of 1849. It seems like it foretold his eternal destiny.
Uh-oh.
The last stanza of the poem goes, "For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee. As the stars never rise, and I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in the sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the side of the sea." So, he's buried next to his wife, so side by side with his bride, in a cemetery that is only a few blocks away from Baltimore's Inner Harbor and Maryland's Chesapeake Bay. So, by the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his wife's name again?
Virginia, so it wasn't Annabel Lee.
Right.
But they're saying like...
Oh,
what?
Okay, so...
What?
Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yes.
So, in the olden days, they used to call the South, the antebellum South, Annabel Lee, as in Robert E. Lee, from Virginia, Annabel Lee.
I mean, I can see it. I like it. I hadn't heard that theory, but I like it.
That's because no one told it to me before. So add that one to the list.
Yes. So also, Edgar Allan Poe, I wanted to include this. He was a big fan of cats. Who would often
checks out.
Right. Who would often have his pet cat sit on his shoulder while he wrote.
That's honestly kind of cool, though.
It's so cute. After his death, his mother-in-law discovered that his beloved cat had also died.
Aww.
His beloved cat's name was Katerina. How cute!
It was a pun!
I said clearly he too liked his puns.
I am so glad to hear that someone like Edgar Allan Poe.
I know. I read the name. I was like, this is incredible.
What a guy.
All right, so that wasn't the scary. Now on to the scary.
Oh, no.
So Poe lived at this address, 203 North Amity Street, Baltimore, Maryland, for some time between 1833 and 1835. He lived here with his aunt, Miss Clem, her grandmother, Elizabeth Carnes, and two cousins, being Virginia, his wife,
right,
and cousin, and maybe her brother, Henry Clem.
Okay.
This is the house that Poe lived in before he moved to Richmond to work at the Southern Literary Messenger. It wasn't anything too special, just a simple brick house that was originally one half of a double house that was built in 1825. It was restored and maintained by the city's Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation and now is both a local and national historic landmark.
Cool.
It is managed by Poe Baltimore, a nonprofit that funds, maintains, and interprets the house and celebrates the legacy of this famous Baltimore resident.
Okay.
It is also now a museum and has different items related to Poe throughout the 3 rooms of the building. There is a piece of his coffin,
Cool.
a lock of his hair,
Oh.
Virginia's deathbed portrait,
Mhm.
and the family china. So now the ghosts. Poe's ghost has been seen walking around the outside of the house. There is also a heavier woman in early 1800s clothing with gray hair that is often seen. Some believe that this is either Poe's wife, which I don't think I believe, while others think that this woman is only connected to the house, not Poe, because people did live in the house after he moved out.
Sure.
There's also a spirit here known as...
I'm here too.
Yeah, this other spirit that is also there is known as Mr. Eddie. The house is now in an unsafe area of Baltimore, but even there, the house has not been broken into, vandalized, or bothered at all by locals.
You gotta love those weird, just unspoken
I know.
rules.
In 1985, the New York Times published an article titled, Ghost of Mr. Eddie Bars Intruders at Poe's House.
Oh?
In the article, a local gang leader was interviewed. That man said that he actually fears the Poe house more than the streets and the guns nearby.
Oh.
It is said that the house is protected by a lone raven and the ghost of Mr. Eddie. During the Baltimore riots that took place following the assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Poe house remained untouched. And when the town lost power, the lights in the Poe house remained on and were just flickering.
That's
weird.
Very weird.
People have reported the sound of knocking, doors and windows will open and close, and thumps are heard at night. Jeff Jerome is the current curator of the house, and he even spoke about times when he was in the house and the doors and windows would open by themselves.
Oh, Lordy.
Visitors have felt taps on their shoulders and have seen candles floating around the house at night. So another haunted Poe location is the Horse You Came In On Saloon, located at 1626 Thames Street, also in Baltimore.
Whoa.
The Horse You Came In On Saloon.
On
Thames Street?
In
Baltimore.
Was it a certain part of Baltimore?
I don't know, just Baltimore. Oh, actually, yeah, I'll get to that. Where it is.
I thought you said in awesome Baltimore.
Also in Baltimore.
Also in Baltimore. Okay.
It is believed that Edgar Allan Poe had been a regular at this bar, with it being one of his favorite places, and it's also believed to have been the last place he was seen before his untimely death. Established in 1775, this saloon had been around for over...
Maybe someone poisoned him.
Maybe. But so this saloon has been around for over 248 years and is located in Fells Point in the historic part of Baltimore.
That part is so much fun.
Yeah, and it's still open. Like, that's why I said, like, we could go here.
Oh, yeah, I would go there.
Okay, perfect.
I would go there.
The other one, it said it's not in a safe area, so let's not go to his house, but let's go here.
But I also want to go there because that seems like really haunted.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you about it. So this is actually the only bar in Maryland, this is a really fun fact, that survived before, during, and after Prohibition.
Hell yeah.
And it is also the longest running bar, like, in the state. So it's been open and running since 1775.
Is it like one of those things that it's like stayed in the family or like
I'm
different
not sure.
people owned
I think
it?
different people have owned it.
But it's all been technically the same business, just different owners.
Yeah. And they've kept it like they've changed the name and stuff, but they've kept it to where it's like the floors that are there are the floors that were there. The only things
really
they've
cool.
added have been like reinforcements and electricity.
Sure,
so like as the
structural
world
things.
Right, as the world is forming, they're adding it to keep it modern.
Yeah.
So it got its current name in 1972 and has been operating under that name since. It got its name when 20-something-year-old Howard Gerber placed a bet on a horse race at Pimlico Racecourse and won. He used that money to achieve his dream of owning and operating a bar. So it is said that back in Baltimore, shortly after his death, Poe was found wandering the streets, delirious after leaving the Horse You Came In On saloon. So, of course, this is considered the most haunted restaurant in Maryland.
Absolutely.
People claim to have seen Poe walking down the street to the Horse at night. It's called the Horse by locals. So it'll be cool when we go there and call it the Horse. There would also be a glass of cognac left out on the bar at night for Poe, but they report that every morning the glass will be emptied, cleaned, and put away. He was known to pull the bar...
I hope to God that someone's just really fucking with people. I just hope that like someone just...
I want that, but also at the same time, I really want it to be Poe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's definitely the first go around. But like, I really hope that if it is someone just fucking with people, they just keep doing it.
Right. He has also been known to be the prankster and pull the bar stool out from under people who were sitting. His spirit has been known to throw glasses to the floor, Today, his picture hangs behind the bar and patrons can toast him. There's also a sign that says Poe's Last Stop on the wall. But he may not be the only one haunting the saloon. Staff have reported a lot of different hauntings. Office space is located on the 4th floor of the building, and staff have reported that a desk up there will open on its own, so I guess all the drawers and stuff. No one ever wants to be alone in the attic because even if you close the door...
What's a fucking attic?
Well, yeah, the main reason no one wants to be in the attic alone. But also, if you do close the door, it will just open on its own. And not just the attic, but most staff members refuse to be alone in the building at all, especially one night when activity seems to ramp up. The bar has reported shattering glasses. Mysterious orbs are often seen in the bar area. The cash register drawer will open over and over no matter how the cashier closes it. And I really hate this one. But so you know how bars have mirrors behind them usually?
Mm-hmm.
People have reported seeing figures behind them when looking in the mirror. The chandelier sways and lights will turn on and off for no reason. So we just won't, if we order drinks, you just look down at the bar the whole time. The bar manager, Robert Napier, has his own story from this bar. So he was alone working one morning. He's looking down, doing whatever he had to do, and he felt someone walking by the other side of the bar railing. Like, you know that feeling when you know someone feels like, yeah. So he calls out saying the bar wasn't open and that the person needed to leave and like couldn't be there, and he looks up and no one's in the bar.
I don't want to go.
And we'd be there at night when activity ramps up as well. We'll have alcohol. We'll be good. It'll be fun. And Fells Point is really fun. I haven't been, but I've heard. There's also a 90s bar that we can go to after where they just play 90s music.
That's much more my speed.
So we'll go to the Horse You Came In on Saloon and get a little drinky drink there. And then we'll go over to the 90s bar. Yeah. All right. And our last location, built in 1797 and located at number 519 West Fayette Street and 515 West Fayette Street, Baltimore, Maryland, is the Westminster Burial Ground, commonly known as Edgar Allan Poe's final resting place. This cemetery at the time served as a local cemetery used by the First Presbyterian Church of Baltimore. And at this time, so the graveyard burial ground was here, the church was located in downtown Baltimore. And this was like a graveyard that they said was used for like politicians and
important people.
Yeah, important people like admirals, people like that.
Yeah.
But other than that, it remained more or less untouched until the Westminster Presbyterian Church was built over a portion of the cemetery in 1852.
Oh.
The building of this church brought about the catacombs that now run underground.
Oh, I didn't know they had those.
Right? Kind of cool. So the church sort of had to be built because in 1850, city officials declared that all burial grounds would be moved to outside of the city if they did not have a church attached to it.
Oh.
So in order to keep it, they had to attach a church.
So they're like, beep.
Yeah, pretty much. And in 1974, the cemetery was added to the National Register of Historic Places. So Poe is buried here alongside his wife, Virginia, and his mother-in-law. Something interesting. I thought this was really cool. For 60 years, between 1949 and 2009, on the anniversary of his death, some say his birthday, a mysterious stranger dressed entirely in black, carrying a silver-tipped cane and wearing a hooded scarf and hat known as the Poe Toaster, would enter the cemetery and leave a partial bottle of cognac and 3 roses on his grave. Even to this day, the identity of the Poe Toaster is unknown. The Poe Toaster. Toast. Not a toaster. Picture a toaster dressed up in a top hat with a cane.
I thought he was leaving a toaster. I was like, is this a nickname for something?
No.
It takes my mind a second to catch up. It's got to go through.
The idea of the man who likes to toast Poe, the Poe Toaster, doesn't make it any better.
Oh my God.
No. So his identity is unknown. It's not really.
How long has he been doing this?
From 1949 to 2009. So 60 years.
I mean, it's possible to be all the same person.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's uncertain what the significance of the cognac is, as it isn't really featured in any of his work anywhere.
I thought that was
There are rumors that it's his favorite drink.
Okay.
Some of those cognac bottles are actually now on display in the Baltimore Poe Museum and House. It is believed, though, that the 3 roses are for Poe, his mother-in-law, Mary Clem, and his wife, Virginia. The visitor would also leave behind notes saying things like, quote, "Edgar, I haven't forgotten you," and "the torch will be passed." One of the very prominent spirits that is said to haunt these grounds is the spirit of surprise, surprise, Poe. Visitors have
he's just all over the freaking place.
all over Baltimore. So visitors have reported seeing his spirit actually standing at his tomb wearing period clothing of a long black coat, black-brimmed fedora and scarf with his hair dark and matted. He is seen wearing a sad expression on his face. He has also been seen in the church that is connected to the graveyard as well as in the underground catacombs. A white-haired ghost is often seen floating through the headstones, and on Poe's birthday, this white-haired ghost has been seen placing flowers on his grave. And a photographer actually caught the spirit doing just that, and it was featured in Life magazine. And I searched and I searched, and I could not find the photo. Because that would have been a cool one to post.
Hell yeah.
Another spirit that is said to wander the grounds is the spirit of Lucia Watson Taylor. She died in 1816 at just 16 years old. Her spirit is said to be one of the most commonly seen. She has long dark hair and is always wearing a flowing white dress. She is often seen kneeling in front of her own grave, deep in prayer with her hands clasped in front of her. Once she is spotted by a visitor, she slowly starts to fade away. 3 different caretakers all quit their jobs after seeing her.
Damn.
Another spirit that haunts the grounds is the 19th century groundkeeper. He is said to walk the rows and call out and quiet any loud visitors before he shuffles away and disappears. Just keeping it nice, quiet, and respectful. People have reported seeing a woman, quote, crazy as a loon, who is buried in her straitjacket to keep her bound even after death. Her crazed laughter can be heard bouncing through the catacombs.
No. I don't think so.
I hate it. Another spirit known to haunt these grounds is the Screaming Skull of Cambridge. There are many legends surrounding this, but it is mainly said that this skull belonged to a minister from the area who had been brutally murdered. The rumors went that a terrible shrieking noise was associated with the minister's body, the minister's dead body. Members who dealt with the body tried to somehow, and I don't know how they did it, but they tried to put cement in the skull to stop the noises and buried it in Westminster. People today report hearing a very high-pitched scream coming from the area where it is said the skull is buried. It is said that most of the spirits haunting the graveyard are the unfortunate victims of grave robbers. A body snatcher would take bodies from their tombs just to turn around and sell the body parts to medical students and universities for research purposes.
Interesting.
So actually, in the mid-19th century, the cemetery was located close to Davidge Hall, where medical students would learn how to dissect corpses. 2 medical students were once caught sneaking in to take a body back to the hall. Their whole getting caught actually caused a commotion and alerted a huge mob. The mob then proceeded to hang one of the students from a nearby street lamp.
Holy shit.
Yep. So the souls of all those who were never able to rest now roam around the catacombs and around the graveyard. Muffled screams have been heard and a foul odor has been reported on the grounds. Paranormal investigators who have come to the graveyard have picked up voices telling them to, quote, get out. Sarah Estep, a researcher, came to the grounds with recording equipment and has recorded a woman's voice saying, quote, we are down beside you, and a man's voice saying, I will be there, I will be there. There are other spirits who have been known to run off ghost hunters in an attempt to keep the graveyard quiet and peaceful.
Fair.
Yeah, ghostly footsteps have been heard while unexplained cold spots are often experienced. Full-bodied apparitions have been reported. But most priests, psychics, and paranormal investigators claim that the ghosts all seem friendly and are just calm, peaceful spirits doing their thing. Tours of the grounds and catacombs underneath can be arranged year-round, which would be kind of cool to do. Not at night, but during the day. In the summer, because they're year-round. Yes. This is such a popular and accessible location that it is now actually one of the most visited places in the entire city of Baltimore.
Wow.
And finally, let's finish this off by talking about a woman named Lizzie Doughton.
Okay.
I'm not going to go much into her, but I think she's just interesting to at least mention.
Okay.
So she was born on April 1st, 1827, which will be fitting very soon. She was a poet and prominent spiritualist, lecturer, and trance speaker. Why I wanted to mention her is because she gained popularity and special attention for her supposed ability to channel Edgar Allan Poe after his death. She wrote a book entitled Poems of the Inner Life in 1863, where she described all of the mystical experiences she has had in her life and how that has had an impact on her mental and physical health. She also said that some of the poems in her book were dictated to her by William Shakespeare, Robert Burns, and Edgar Allan Poe. She said that Poe's spirit would visit her and offer some of his unfinished poems and short stories for her to publish for him.
Right.
But fans of Poe's knew what his work was.
Sure.
And knew that Doughton's work was fake and a hoax. They felt that she was doing this as a way to gain cheap publicity because the poems were awful and nowhere as good as what Poe would have published.
Sure.
So there you have it. The life of the poet who called Baltimore home, Edgar Allan Poe, and the places that his spirit is supposedly still haunting.
Wowza.
I know. And I actually really love Edgar Allan Poe. When I was in my ghost hunting group, we wanted to go tour that museum in Baltimore. They said no. And then there was one somewhere in Virginia that we tried to tour, but we weren't able to. And then I have my tattoo idea for my leg, and I'm getting a raven on it.
Mm-hmm.
One, because I just think ravens and crows are the coolest thing, and because he's a spooky dude, and that's a spooky thing.
I like it.
And because the crow's going to be on top of books, like the crow raven is going to be on top of books,
I like
and
that.
so it all fits in.
I like that.
Thank you.
That's very cool.
I'll have to show
Very
you my
clever.
tattoo idea.
Yes.
I think I've showed you, but I'll have to show you again.
Okay.
But yeah, didn't realize he was so prominent. I knew he was because, like you said, the Ravens are named after him in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cool.
Absolutely.
Like all the little places that he went to, and it's just like he's such a big name, and he has all these little places just around. Like
it's kind of
we
weird
could
that
drive
it's like,
to.
yeah,
Yeah,
close by.
yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Thank you. It was very fun looking into him, and I wanted to go so much more into his biography, but I was
I would have been living it.
Oh, I know, but I was like, no, gotta focus more on the spookiness.
Yeah,
I'll do like a very brief little, because it's only like a couple pages of his timeline, and I was like, man, there's so much information I have to leave out, but
well, like the
cool.
ending part of like how he
his mysterious death and everything, and that's
I think I cracked the code.
I think you did. But that's one of the main things that everything talked about was just like, he was a spooky dude, but he had a weird death. And like, no one knows what happened. None of his documents are there. No one has an idea.
Interesting.
It's very cool.
Very cool.
All right, Mackenzie, what are you telling me about today?
So I am officially stepping up onto my soapbox, and I will not be getting back down till the end of the story.
Uh-oh.
So, trigger warning. This story does cover topics of domestic abuse, physical, verbal, emotional, all of the kinds, substance abuse, and some talks of suicide. So please be advised. And in our show notes, you'll find phone numbers and websites of organizations for you to contact, or if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence and abuse.
Wonderful.
So you don't have to scroll all the way to the end. You can just stop here.
Right. And just click see more info.
Yeah. So not that we needed a reason to, but for those of you who believe that domestic abuse victims can just leave, this story is a great example of women who left. Yes, women who left. And were still met with harassment, assault, and even kidnapping.
Oh, this is going to make me mad.
Oh, 100%. 100%. You should have seen me as I was typing it.
Angry typing.
Asshole. Oh my gosh. And reading the newspapers too, I was like, seriously? His mother. God.
Mommy issues?
No, but like almost the complete opposite. Mom too involved. You'll see.
Oh. Well, that could still technically be mommy issues.
Maybe it was. Who knows? With it all coming to an end in a 97-hour hostage standoff with police, this is the story of Joseph Joby Palczynski, his victims, and a lesson of what can happen when a woman, in this case many women, try to leave their abusive relationship. So to know the stories of our victims is to know the story of Joseph Palczynski, born in 1968 in a Baltimore suburb, to Joseph Sr. and Patricia Palczynski. Joe Jr. was number 3 of 4 with 2 sisters and a brother. When I, for the beginning of this, didn't know what to call him. I was like, I can't remember if I should call him Joby because that's what some people called him.
Mm-hmm.
Mom says Joseph. Some of the news reports said, literally, even within the same article, they would change how they said his name. So,
consistency, people.
So when I hadn't decided yet, I went, so in junior was 3, Pat left senior and eventually married again to John Long, who was a budget analyst with Baltimore Gas and Electric Company. Joe didn't do well in school early on, and it was difficult to find a school that could help him. Failing out of several schools, he ended up in a special education program that would work for a child with ADHD. However, his troubled behavior carried on. So I did see a report that he had gotten into a minor bus accident when he was 14 and apparently suffered a head injury.
Oh, it's always head injuries.
But no confirmation if that had any contribution to his mental health problems or behavior. It's just that's what some people speculate, so it's thrown in there.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time he was 15, he was charged with stealing a friend's gun, and at 16, when his sister Karen died in a car accident, he fell into a deep depression. He spent most of the summer being treated at Walter P. Carter Center Psychiatric Hospital. According to reports, he had threatened to kill his stepfather and his biological father.
Oh.
This was also the point when he started the habit of telling people that he was, quote, going to die by the bullet. His mom has had a successful house cleaning business, so her son never went without. She bought him cars, jet skis, and all kinds of toys to try and make her son happy. She would do anything for him, even do whatever she could to help keep him out of trouble and out of jail.
Wow.
By the time he was in high school, he was known as a, quote, heartthrob. He was the stereotypical bad boy that every woman at one point or another thinks that they can change. He would say all the right things and shower you with gifts and adoration. You felt like the luckiest girl in the world because he chose you. Just when he has you under his spell, the adoration changes to obsession and all the right things change to threats. By the time you realize what has happened, you are too scared to leave for fear that those threats may be followed through on.
Oh my God, that gave me goosebumps.
This is what many of Joe's victims went through during their relationships with him.
Ooh, I don't like that.
All right, buckle up.
Oh.
Here we go.
All right.
At first, when you're first looking into this story, it's like, oh, this is a prime example of the failure of like our mental health care system, which
is a huge failure.
That is definitely a component here.
Mm-hmm.
But this goes on for a long ass fucking time. And I'm like, and one of the, I'll get into it later. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry. Okay, focus. Amy Gearhart was 15 when she met Joby, as she was a sophomore and he was a senior in high school. He had given her balloons on Valentine's Day and wrote in her yearbook that she had him wrapped around her finger. She felt like the most special girl in the world. He was an old-fashioned gentleman and even impressed her parents enough to allow her to go on a car date.
Ooh.
He took her to prom and Amy felt on top of the world. The more that Amy got to know Joby, the more she saw his darker side. He kept guns stashed under his bed and in his car, and he even had held a knife to her throat at one point.
Oh.
Joby told her he had two personalities. One version of him was calm and rational, and the other was angry and strange. Amy would soon see that side of Joby in the summer of 1987. Amy was hanging with some friends near the beach in Ocean City.
Oh.
She would, yeah.
You know, right, Maryland. I know. It's just always so weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I know. When stories become reality.
Right. It's just like, you hear true crime all the time. It's just places that, aren't near you.
It's easy to make it distant because it's physically far away.
Right. And so when it's something where it's like where you go, where you're near, it just hits
and you're going to know
weird.
exactly what I'm talking about too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she was spending the week there with a friend and her family, and Amy was eating ice cream out of a pint, and just as she fed a bite to another guy, she spotted her possessive and jealous boyfriend walking towards them.
Oh!
Without any explanation, Joby walked up and knocked Amy to the ground. He began to kick and beat her, even as her friends tried to intervene. When the police arrived, he squeezed her hand hard and said, "Don't tell them nothing." Still in shock, she obeyed.
Oh.
Joby's calm side was showing again. He told the officers that he had been looking for a watch and a ring that he had lost in the parking lot. When the police left, he ordered Amy and her friend's 14-year-old brother to hold hands while they walked on the beach. He would kick and hit them to keep them moving. He told the boy, quote, "I need a witness." About half a mile down on the Delaware state line. So...
Right, yeah.
Joby was screaming at Amy and blaming her for causing him to lose his ring and ruining his life.
Oh, yep. Mm-hmm.
He interrogated the two teenagers about where everyone slept in the condo that they had been renting and who Amy had been spending her time with. He forced them to sit up against a fence cross-legged as he paced back and forth in front of them. He orders the younger brother, Jason, to punch Amy. When he refused, Joby took his hand and hit Amy 3 times in the chest. Amy yelled at Jason to go get help, and when Jason ran off, Joby's anger was focused on one person, Amy.
Oh, no.
He told her to choose her death, drowning, choking, or beating. Oh, yeah, this guy is by far...
Oh, my God.
It's just... he just so gets away with it. Like, it's not even funny. God. Like,
is he like a white dude from a nice family?
Yeah, he looks like your typical, like, musclehead dude. Like, he's... short-ish for a guy. He's only 5'8", kind of stocky. And he's like a big dude.
Yeah. He just looks like your typical typical all-American dude.
Really surprised that given how just like muscular and big he was, and given that it was the 80s, I was surprised that nowhere in here did they say anything about steroids. Because
that's
I was like,
good point.
That would make sense.
Right. And the anger. Okay. Yeah. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Go on.
All right. He also threatened to kill her family. Amy pleaded with him through her sobs to stop as he continued to pound her chest. Amy spotted some fishermen and broke free to run over to them. She grabbed their flashlight to shine on her face so that they could see what Joby had done to her. Calm Joby was back, saying everything was fine and they didn't need to intervene. In a daze, Amy went along with it.
Oh.
Once Joby saw what he had done to her, he began to sob and beg for forgiveness. When Amy was finally able to get help, she went to the medical clinic on 93rd Street.
Oh, I went there to get my stitches when I cut my finger eating crabs.
I told you were going to know where this was.
Yeah, I was eating crabs, and I am a pro. I'm like a pro crab eater.
Sliced
And
finger.
I sliced my finger to the point where it did not stop bleeding. And I was like, oh no. And this was like the first crab of the season. And Mom looked at me. She goes, just go run it underwater. It didn't stop. So I came back. I was like, Mom. And she goes, oh, Lauren. So we went. I got my fingers. I got a stitch, like 2 stitches in my finger. And the stitches actually hurt less than the shot they give you to numb your finger.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of makes sense.
It was so stupid. And then I had to wear...
your finger's now numb.
No, my finger wasn't numb, though.
Well, but right, the shot makes it numb.
No, but my finger was not numb when they did the stitches because my finger anesthesia takes a really long time to hit me. And so they just kept doing the shot over and over and over. And I was like, stop giving me the shot. Just do the stitches.
Oh my God, your hand would have been asleep forever.
So they just did the stitches and I could feel them. And then because I can't get it wet, I can't get sand in it. And we're at the beach on the first day of our vacation. I had to wear a finger condom.
I remember that too.
But yes, that's exactly where I was.
Well, Amy didn't just slice her finger, unfortunately.
Ugh.
She had suffered from contusions of the left eardrum, lacerations and swelling of her cheek and nose, a contusion of the right eye that caused it to hemorrhage, and a bruised rib cage.
Oh my God.
After much convincing from her mother, Amy pressed charges against Joby. Pat, Joby's mom, called them, begging for them to drop the charges. Amy's mom refused and told her, quote, your son's abusive and he's going to kill somebody someday. That fall, when Amy returned to school, she saw Joby with a new girlfriend, Kimberly. Kimberly even sought out Amy for advice because Joby had given her a black eye and she didn't know how to get away from him. Amy told her to get a restraining order and press charges. So both Kimberly and Sharon are underage and had declined to interview. But
wait, who's Sharon?
She'll come later.
Oh, okay.
But they're both underage and declined to interview for where I found a lot of this information.
Okay.
So some of the stories will be a little bit more fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
And then like this one and Sharon's will just be from the
interview?
No.
Article? Book? Newspaper?
The report thingy.
Oh, the police report?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The charging document. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Like Amy, they were also victims of Joby's darker side. According to the charging document from Kimberly's mother in October of 1987, Joseph C. Palczynski searched Kim's bedroom without permission when she was in the shower. While searching, he found birth control pills. The discovery of these pills made Joseph very angry because he did not want her taking them. As a result, he began to slap Kim several times in the face with both an open hand and a backhand, resulting in a black eye, right, and bruising of the right and left cheekbones. After a series of slaps in the face, Joseph then punched Kim in the stomach, knocking her to her knees. He continued to threaten Kim, stating that if she didn't do what he said, he would do it again. February 21st, 1988, Joseph pulled Kimberly into the bathroom at his house, owned by his grandmother, stating that he wanted to have sex with her. When she refused, he became very angry and very forceful. Joseph punched her with a closed fist, causing multiple bruises along Kim's breastbone, then exited the bathroom. Went into a closet and got a razor blade. He then proceeded to threaten Kim, saying, if you don't come here and talk to me, I'll beat you some more, whether my grandma is here or not.
Oh my God. You know that like feeling in your chest?
Yeah.
That's what I have.
Yeah. And we only just started. It's one thing when you like write it in bits and pieces, but then when you go back and you put it all together,
right.
It's just
infuriating.
So thankfully, Joby was convicted of beating Kim and sentenced to 2 years of supervised probation. In January of 1989, he pleaded not guilty for reasons of insanity. In the case of Amy Gearhart. A psychiatrist deemed him competent to stand trial, and he was sentenced 4 years in prison. He served 2, with some additional time for an attempted escape.
I cannot roll my eyes enough.
He went to regular counseling while in prison and was described as having, quote, deliberately sought out dangerous situations consistent with a fantasy identity as a, quote, Rambo-like hero.
Oh, God.
Yes, but it was the mental health care system that failed him.
Right.
In April of 1991, he was released from prison and went home to live with his mother and stepfather. He had a part-time job at a sporting goods store and did some occasional construction.
Was it Sports Authority?
I don't know. I didn't say. I just said athletic goods, so I changed it to sporting goods. Life at home wasn't all great, though. Joby's parents disapproved of him dating younger girls.
I wonder why.
By August of that year, he had got his own apartment and was free to date whomever he wanted.
And how old is he at this point? He was born in 68. This is 91. So what, 23? Did you see how fast I did that math in my head?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And that was when he met 17-year-old Sharon, 6 months after being released from jail, and was warned by the assistant principal at her school not to trespass. Later, he was arrested for attacking Sharon at her school.
Oh my God.
His charging document stated on November 8th, 1991. We were arguing in front of her school. I proceeded into the school. He came running after me. He pushed me up against the wall. I pleaded with him not to hit me, but the next thing I knew, I was on the ground screaming. He was also threatened by my parents to kill them and leave me to suffer. You'll see that theme pop up a lot.
Yeah.
He said if he goes to jail, he will kill me or get someone to hurt me. He has gotten people to come to my house before. This is not the first time he has hurt me, but before he only pushed me and pulled me by my hair. Joby was released on bail.
Oh my God.
And ordered not to have contact with Sharon.
Oh, because it's just as simple as saying, please don't do this.
That didn't stop him from sending her harassing phone calls telling her he would blow her brains out if she didn't drop the charges. He also somehow managed to purchase an Inland M-41 caliber 30 thing rifle gun.
A gun.
A gun.
Mm-hmm.
From a pawn shop.
Oh.
This is great. And he had told a friend that he was going to shoot people at Sharon's school. The friend thought he was just talking big.
Hear something, say something. If
Like,
someone tells you something like that, you don't take it as, I don't think that's going to happen.
I get the time, if you even want to throw that excuse in there, but it's also like, okay, at this point, you can no longer make excuses because this has been going on for years.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it was one and then really spaced out and then another. It, like, even if you are prejudiced against women and don't believe the victim, at this point, how can you say? There's literally physical evidence.
Yeah.
Oh, and it just gets worse.
Stop. Mackenzie.
Joby tended to have friends that were younger and impressionable.
That seems to be a theme with these people.
They thought he was so cool with his fast cars and his guns and his constant rotation of girlfriends. Meanwhile, Sharon was filing additional charges because of harassing phone calls, and Joby was arrested and sent to Baltimore County Detention Center. While he was there, the staff decided that he needed a psych eval based on his strange behavior. He was sent to Spring Grove, where he was initially diagnosed with bipolar mood disorder and possible depression. I hope you're keeping track of the list.
Right.
It's going to change as we go.
Okay.
2 days after arriving at the facility, Joby escaped and fled the state with a friend's ID card. About a month later, Joby surfaced in Gooding, Idaho, when a woman filed a complaint against him for assaulting her 15-year-old daughter.
Oh my God.
While the Idaho police were investigating, Maryland State Police warned them that Joby was unstable.
Oh, so they like talk to each other.
No, get this. That Joby was unstable and possibly armed with an automatic rifle, a 9mm handgun, and a shotgun. Joby barricaded himself in his apartment when police Idaho attempted to make an arrest, and he told them that he would shoot himself and people in the nearby parking lot if they tried to arrest him. After 16 hours, SWAT hit the apartment with tear gas and were able to apprehend Joby and send him back to Maryland.
So they didn't hold him there?
I think something with extradition, I don't know.
Well, yeah, but if he's committing a crime there, you can hold him there.
So at this point, Joby was facing a slew of charges.
Good.
Violating federal gun laws, battering and threatening Sharon, and escaping from Spring Grove Hospital. He's looking at some serious jail time.
You would think.
That is, unless, of course, he is declared legally insane.
There is much disappointment on my face.
I hope those of you that are listening to this are not driving.
I do always hate the cases when I listen to podcasts. They're like, this is going to make you mad. I'm like, damn it.
If you're wondering why we're stopping so much, it's because we both have to have our heart rate decline before we can continue. So his lawyers, of course, argued that his mental health was to blame for all of his actions. Joby was sent to the Federal Correctional Institute in Petersburg, Virginia for a month-long evaluation. During that time, Joby pulled out all the stops, saying that he had bought the guns to kill the ninjas that had been following him. His ploy worked because he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
Oh my God.
And met the criteria of legally insane. So just in case, those of you that are keeping score, first we started out with a diagnosis of ADHD, although I do think that might be the only legitimate one.
Right.
Because it was probably diagnosed by a school, hence why. So that one's probably legit. Possible depression and bipolar, and now paranoid schizophrenic. And he was found not guilty on the federal weapons charge, and he would later brag to girlfriends that he fooled the system by cutting himself on multiple occasions. After 15 months...
Thankfully now, I think it's a lot harder to get that diagnosis.
I think so too.
But back then, it's like, what, you had the DSM-2? So you can read through it and be like, oh, okay, so paranoid schizophrenia, these are the steps I need. This is what I need to do.
Yeah, and everything's a continuum now anyway.
Right.
So 15 months of court rehabilitation at multiple facilities, Joby appeared to have made a complete recovery. According to psychiatrists, the now 25-year-old was extremely stable, with no evidence of bizarre behavior or verbalizations which might be indicative of delusional thinking.
Oh.
And he hadn't taken his medication in over a year.
Wow, this place just really cured him.
Whatever mental illness he was suffering from in 1992, he had fully recovered from in 1994.
Because the mental illnesses of like paranoid schizophrenia and things like that can be cured. I'm being sarcastic. They can't. They can be treated and you can be you'll be completely fine. But it's still there.
Wait for the mic drop.
Oh, God.
Psychiatrist M.A. Conroy had diagnosed with Joby as having personality disorder, but antisocial and borderline features.
Of course, yes.
She did not see any reason for further psychiatric treatment or follow-up. So he could go home. And a judge had dropped the charges he had faced for assaulting and harassing Sharon. A different judge reviewed the charges that he faced for escaping Spring Grove and gave Joby a 3-year suspended sentence and with 5 years probation. So now he's a free man. And in the summer of 1995, he met his next victim, 17-year-old Michaela Osborne. Michaela's father, Gary, was suspicious of Joby from the start. While he seemed polite and devoted to his daughter, he had also had no job, from what Gary could tell, and seemed older than he had told Michaela. Gary could see how controlling Joby was. And
how old did he tell Michaela he was?
We'll get there.
Okay.
Gary could see how controlling Joby was, would often see him hiding in the bushes outside of their house.
That's when I would go outside and be like, leave.
Joby was seeing if Michaela was talking on the phone or smoking the cigarettes that he had forbidden her to smoke.
Of course forbidden her, yes.
Gary was no stranger to abusive men. His ex-wife had been beaten to death in 1989 by her boyfriend.
His ex-wife?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That took me a second. But
I
wow.
also did the same thing when I first read it, and I was like, oh, wait. Okay.
Right.
So when Gary went to question Michaela about Joby, they got into an argument. This was when Gary found out that Joby was actually 27 and not 23, like he told Michaela. And when asked about the bruises, Michaela lied and said it was from falling off a ladder helping Joby's mom with her cleaning business.
Aww.
But Gary knew it was from Joby.
Right.
In July, Gary had ordered Joby to leave their house, and a fight ensued. Gary was a smaller dude and ended up in the hospital with 4 broken ribs and a split lip that required stitches. This guy sounds like a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Gary decided, this is why I was like, I don't understand how there's no steroids. Why has this not entered the picture yet?
Right.
Gary decided against pressing charges because he didn't want to cause any more trouble.
Oh, man.
That was until Christmas of that year. In an interview, Michaela recalled the details of that night. So this is taken from the article that I read, but they put it in third person based on the interview she gave.
Okay.
I didn't want you to think she was talking in third person.
Right, okay.
She had spent the holiday with Joby, visiting his family as well as hers. At the end of the day, tired, she said she wanted to spend the night at her dad's house instead of Joby's apartment. Stung, he argued with her, and things quickly got out of hand. He choked her and slammed her head against the shower tiles. Michaela scratched his face, staining with blood the white sweatshirt she had given him. Joby yelled that she had 10 minutes to remove the blood or he would give her the beating of her life.
Oh my God.
Desperate, Michaela soaked the sweatshirt in cold water, rubbed the stain with ice. It wasn't enough, though, and when the time was up, Joby made good on his threat. After beating her, he ordered her to go into the kitchen and pick up a knife. Then, putting a cloth over his own hand, he took the knife from her. I could kill you right now, he threatened. My fingerprints ain't on it. Yours are. All I have to do is tell police you tried to kill me with this knife and I killed you in self-defense. Later, his anger spent, Joey fell into bed exhausted. Michaela lay beside him shivering, certain that he would kill her if she moved to get away. The next morning, when he seemed calmer, Michaela begged to go to work. She told him over and over how much she loved him, how she would never leave him, and how she would never go to the cops. Then she reminded him that she was the one with the income. So after she was dropped off at work and Joby eventually left, she took a cab home to her father's house and they went to the police to press charges. Once again, so that was the end of her version. This is back to me. Once again, Pat called the family to beg them to drop the charges.
I want to, slap this mom.
Yeah. Joby had violated his probation, and she knew that he would go to jail for a long time if he was convicted. Gary refused, and Joby was sent back to Baltimore County Detention Center to await trial. So Joby rarely had just one girlfriend. And after things went south with him and Michaela, he struck up a friendship with 17-year-old Lisa Anderson.
So no girls can talk to another guy, but it's fine for him to have multiple girlfriends.
Yes. Lisa recalls what it was like when she first met Joby.
Oh, no.
Quote, when I first met him, he said, "You have a beautiful smile." I think, whoa, I'd never had anyone say that to me.
Oh.
He was like, "You've got gorgeous eyes and pretty hair." He treated me with utmost respect and dignity. He was something I never had experienced before.
Oh.
Lisa believed him when he told her that he was sent to jail on false charges, saying that Michaela had cheated on him and when he found out he had pushed her, but that was it. Lisa, of course, believed him and soon found herself devoting all of her time to her new love. He began calling her almost every day, multiple times a day, and Lisa started cutting school just so she could go talk to him. His pager number was, shit you not, 007.
Oh.
Yeah, that probably had nothing to do with his inflated ego.
Not at all.
And apparently hers was 00, so 00. Quote, his sidekick, partner in crime.
Ew.
Eventually, Lisa dropped out of school and moved in with a friend of Joby's. The friend would often drive Lisa to the detention center to see Joby. Joby would give Lisa a hard time for the makeup or clothes that she was wearing.
Of course.
But then, of course, he would apologize and blame it on the stress of being in jail. Joby tried to intimidate Gary Osborne and Michaela by saying Michaela had stolen his car in the hopes of getting her locked up. Joby tried to file charges against Gary for the fight that they had the summer before, but Gary filed the same charges right back. Gary woke up one morning to discover all his tires had been slashed, deep scratches on the driver's side door, and 10 pounds of sugar had been poured into the gas tank.
Oh, geez.
The Osbornes still didn't drop the charges against Joby. He decided to ramp up the intimidation. He told Lisa that he wanted her to file charges against Gary, saying that he had threatened to blow up her house and kill her if she testified on behalf of Joby. Lisa, understandably, felt very uncomfortable doing this for Joby, and in typical Joby fashion, he threatened Lisa if she didn't do what he asked. At first, Lisa pretended and lied to Joby that she had filed the charges. When he found out she lied, he was enraged, saying, quote, "Who do you think you're playing with? You lied to me. Do you think this is a game?" Anderson recalls, oh, that's the girl. Lisa Anderson.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Sorry, I forgot that I copied more than the quote. He said, "If you don't do this, I'm going to kill your family." On April 9th, 1996, Lisa drove to the county courthouse and filed false charges against Gary Osborne. This type of harassment would continue. Gary would be arrested 3 different times that month because of false charges filed from Lisa and her sister's roommate, Carla.
Oh, my God.
Right? And he had to, raise money for bail.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, it's not the fucking mental health care system that fucked up. I'm telling you right now.
Right now.
Right now. Quote, Joby wanted Gary bad, Lisa Anderson recalls. He wanted to make Gary's life a living hell. Gary was controlling Michaela, but Joby wanted to control Michaela. Joby couldn't handle it when somebody else was controlling something he considered his.
Gross.
Disgusting. Eventually, Carla and Lisa admitted that they had made the whole thing up, and the charges against Gary were dropped, but unfortunately the prosecutor did not think that they had any reliable witnesses in the case against Joe, I think. I don't know. I was trying to figure out the context because there was two things going on, like, because Gary was also suing the girls. And so I was like, okay, does the prosecutor not think that
right,
there's enough evidence for that? But then when you read later on, like, I don't know, something gets dropped.
Okay.
But he did end up pleading guilty to charges of battery and witness tampering.
Okay.
So it's a little confusing. But
right.
After all that, the judge gave him a suspended sentence. So Joby was back on the streets to pick his next victim.
Oh my God.
So he tried to pull the same ruse with 16-year-old Stacy Carlotta. They met while they were pumping gas. And Stacy's parents were suspicious of Joe right from the start. Love this mom. She's fire. Didn't make sense that a 20-year-old had crow's feet. Joe was now 27, and it was getting harder and harder to pass for someone in their early 20s.
Interesting.
Stacy, of course, hung on to every word he said, distracted by his bad boy vibes and mysterious background. Because Stacy's parents forbid her to see him, she would sneak out, and he, of course, was all too happy to oblige her disobedience.
Right.
One night, Stacy was telling Joe how her father told her that he had gotten in trouble with the law. Joe asked her what her dad had said, and she said that he had 3 charges, one of battery, one of assault, and one of kidnapping. This is how their conversation went. Ho, 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 I'll be lucky if that's what it is. Are you serious? Only that much? Yeah. Hun, I got a record for real. In my entire life, I've like 40 charges. He didn't get no printout of my record. There's no way. I've had robbery, okay? I've got 4, 5, 6 assaults and batteries, continued matter-of-factly as he checked off a grocery list. 2 or 3 counts of trespassing, 2 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of false imprisonment, okay? 2 counts of phone harassment, 2 counts of intimidating a state witness, 1 count of intimidating. Well, why did only 3 of them come up? I have no idea. 1 count of illegal possession of firearms, 1 for fleeing and eluding. What else? Just all kinds of shit. Hun, all kinds of shit. Now, as far as a conviction, 3 counts of assault and battery, we're going to move to phase 2. You got a tape recorder? He wanted her to record her conversations with her father so that he could see what he knew. Yeah, I almost was like, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Right.
Like, goddamn. So Stacy, of course, started to see Joe's uglier half. He became possessive and took up all of her time. He told her that when he paged her, she had 2 or 3 minutes to call him back or there would be consequences.
Oh.
Stacy found his moods unpredictable. One minute he would be slamming her into a wall, and the next he'd be begging for her forgiveness and making her steak dinners. Stacy's timing in Joe's life couldn't have been better, though, because of everything that happened with the Osbournes. Joe did not want another angry family on his hands, and Stacy's parents were certainly nosy and connected enough to cause him issues. Stacy's parents would tell reporters that when they would leave their home, they would see Joe standing on the corner of the street, waiting and watching.
Gross.
Stacy's mom, of course, recognized the signs of an abuser. Stacy's uncle was a police officer, so her mom had no hesitation pressing charges if it came to it. She gave her daughter a book called, quote, The Gift of Fear.
Oh, I've read that.
This is fucking, I'm telling you, this mom is like fucking fire. And even still.
It's a good book.
Yeah, but even still, this is not the end. It was a book that described the classic signs of an abuser. And her mom underlined the traits that apply to Joby. I'm going to read them to you now.
Oh, God.
Bullying, verbal abuse, intimidation, talking about getting married, having kids and being together forever shortly after the first meeting, battering women in previous relationships, stalking, police encounters, using money to control people, believing others are out to get him, liking violent films, having fascination with weapons, minimizing any kind of abusive behavior.
Damn.
This is also why I want an Apple Watch to see, like, when I get ramped up, what my heart rate gets up to.
I do it before I got on elevators. To see what my heart rate gets up to on an elevator.
Mr. Carlotta told Joby to stay away from his daughter and filed a petition against him to prevent him from having contact with Stacy. The Carlottas got lucky because the Osbourne convictions violated his parole from Spring Grove, the escape charges, and he was back in jail. Judge John Fader sentenced him to serve 3 years, saying, quote, "This man is dangerous," he said. "He is out there hurting people. I can't believe any human being can make so many mistakes and be given so many chances and not appreciate it. And I do not feel, from what I hear, that the mental state is anywhere near as much as an excuse as he tries to use it for a crutch." Mic drop. Stacy thought they belonged together.
Mm-hmm.
She would give letters to Joe's mom to take for her to take it to him in the jail.
Right.
He told her that they would be together forever, and when he got out, they would run away to Florida to get married.
Ew.
Which, of course, that would be legal in Florida. Stacy was all for it until she was shown a different letter. A letter that Joe had written to one of his friends, describing his relationship with Stacy as, quote, "a big joke. She was just, quote, another under my belt." He goes on to say, "If you tell a girl what she wants to hear, you could, all of them. That's what I was doing for the past 10 years. Oh, it's not just what you tell them, but how and where you tell them. The only hard part is remembering the lies."
Ew.
I'm sure you get the point. "I added up all the girls. I got 142 girls, and 38 of them are virgins. Were virgins."
I call BS.
In case there's any men still listening. If you ever have a friend, a relative, an acquaintance, overheard on the subway, work buddy, boss,
Anyone.
say that, and you don't tell them they're a disgusting piece of shit, you are part of the problem. Told you, I am up on this soapbox. So, of course, she wrote Joe, told him it was over. Strange cars started racing past her house, and cryptic messages were left on her windshield.
God, terrifying.
Some of the notes would say, "Watch your back, bitch," and "I'm coming back for you." Stacy's mom wrote to the Victim Notification Services of the state's Division of Correction, saying, quote, "How does he talk people into doing this crazy stuff? They follow her, leave notes, call her house. What else is next? I'm afraid to ask. He's a very strange, manipulative person. I'm afraid if he's this obsessed about her now, what will it be like when he gets out of jail?" She would take down license plates and car descriptions. She even wrote the parole board before Joe's release. Thankfully, Stacy and her family didn't have to worry about Joe when he got released in June of 1998 because, like all the rest of Joe's girlfriends, she became another photo on the wall. Literally, but more on that later.
Oh, God.
Joe had a new car and a new girl. This would be his oldest girlfriend and longest relationship. It would also become his undoing. Tracy Whitehead did not have an easy life. She had gotten pregnant at 15 and dropped out of high school. She unfortunately got hooked on heroin and gave her son to his parental grandparents while she tried to get clean.
Oh, paternal, you mean?
Yeah, what did I say?
Parental.
Yes, sorry. Paternal. That was when she met Joby. She had gone into the store to get cash to buy some drugs when she noticed someone was watching her. When she left the store and called a cab to take her home, I also think to go buy drugs, Joe cruised up in his nice car and teased her for interrupting him at the register. They exchanged numbers, and of course, he started calling every day. Joe was everything Tracy would want in a guy. He was good looking, he had a good job, and he was clean cut, didn't even smoke cigarettes. He would take her on picnics, sing ballads to her at karaoke, and even went with her to the AA meetings.
See, on the surface, he sounds like a great person.
Tracy knew about his past, but given her own mistakes, she did not think she was one to judge.
You can always judge.
You can
always judge.
There is someone who is worse. Tracy got a job and was even able to save money to buy her family Christmas gifts. She was moving up in the world, and before she knew it, she was 6 months sober. Tracy knew about Joe's dark side. She had already witnessed a few times what could happen when he got mad. Tracy was also very close to Joby's mom, who would, on occasion, even stand up for Tracy during one of their arguments that tend to happen in front of her. As Tracy continued to flourish in life, Joby's jealousy, insecurities, and controlling nature got worse. Joe would put down her family, would lose his mind as they walked through the mall. If he thought any man was looking at her.
Oh my God.
There was one instance that like some older guy was like, "Oh, you remind me of my daughter." And he like blew his shit.
Oh my God.
He would put her down if she did her hair in a new way or wore a new outfit to work. He would spit on her, poured soda on her, and a lie earned her a black eye and a split lip. A counselor told her early on that the relationship was not healthy. Tracy did try to leave 5 or 6 times, but Joe would always find her, beg her to come back, and promise that he was changed. He was different than anyone she had ever met. She told the Baltimore Sun, quote, "He built my self-esteem up a lot, and he made me feel good about myself, and he cleaned and cooked, and he was just like the kind of guy you could spend the rest of your life with. If only he didn't have those moods."
If only.
Part of the problem was Joe's obsession with his appearance. His lies about his age were becoming less believable. He told Tracy he was 25 a few months before his 30th birthday. He talked about getting cosmetic surgery to help with his crow's feet, and he refused to attend his own birthday, even with the help of hair plugs he couldn't cover up the bald spot on his head. Tracy had seen the photographs of Joe's previous girlfriends. She knew most of them by name. I'm literally imagining them up on a wall.
Right.
She also learned she was not the only one that Joe had picked up at a supermarket. When Tracy threatened to leave, Joe sobbed and begged her to stay. After one particularly nasty argument, Tracy stormed out after Joe and accused her of cheating.
Joe stormed out after Tracy?
Yes, because she first accused him of cheating.
Oh, okay.
Got really mad, went to leave, and then he accuses her.
Of course, yes.
So she ends up going to a bar, and she then calls Joe to taunt him about being with another younger man. She was intoxicated. When she returned home, she found all of her clothes torn to bits all over their apartment. Tracy knew she needed to leave for good. She got promoted to assistant manager and had been sober for over a year.
Aww.
Her confidence in herself was growing, and she was even able to save enough money to get a place of her own. She realized that the place that she found wouldn't be ready for another week.
Oh, no.
She confided in her manager at work, Gloria Schneck, because I'm tight. And Gloria offered Tracy to stay with them for the week.
Oh, good.
Tracy went home to pack when someone from work called to say that Joe was looking for her. She tried to gather what she could and hide when Joe got back, but he found her. Started screaming at her and that she wasn't going anywhere, punching her in the face, kicking her in the ribs. And he told her that to call work and say that she wasn't coming in. So when Tracy called Gloria, thankfully she could see right through it and called the police. Tracy was in the back of the police car giving her statement when Pat showed up. More desperate than ever to keep her son out of jail, she says to her, quote, "Joseph isn't doing well," she said. Tracy had come this far and wasn't going back now. She refused to change her story, and she told Miss Pat, quote, "I have no sympathy for him at all."
Good.
Yes. This is where it gets crazy. This is what they would call the
climax.
Yes. Tracy was walking home from work when a car pulled up beside her. It was Joe. He was begging for her to talk to him, and she wanted nothing to do with him.
And this is Tracy. Okay.
She knew he was mad, but he had never followed through on most of his threats before. She was watching TV with Gloria and her husband, George. Joe came in through the sliding door holding 2 guns, saying, "Tracy, you are coming with me." Tracy froze and dropped to the ground. She was looking down when Joe shot Gloria. She was also looking down when he shot George. Just the screams of their 2 young grandchildren who had witnessed their grandparents being murdered.
Mackenzie!
We're not done.
I'm surprised my phone's not like, "Hey, do you want to take some breaths?" My watch will do that if it notices I get stressed. It's like, here's a great way to clear your mind.
Joe dragged Tracy by the hair and out the door. When a neighbor came out trying to help, Joe shoots and kills him too.
Oh my God.
He forces Tracy to change her clothes and leaves his van behind. He takes Tracy into the woods where he punches her in the nose and tells her to lie on the ground. He held a gun to the back of her head and said, "I should kill you right now." Tracy begs for her life and begs Joe to at least let her tell her son that she loves him. He tells her about all the ways that he is going to torture her. He makes her get up and then hits her in the chest with the rifle. So he said that he was going to blow away her arms and legs and leave her to live in a wheelchair. He would pull out her teeth one by one. Please kill me, she pleaded. He told her to get up, then hit... Oh, I said that part, sorry. Hands over her head, gasping for air, Tracy walked on through the mud and brush. "Are you going to kill me? Hurry up." Finally, they stumbled upon a vacant camper, shaking, freezing, and thirsty. Tracy collapsed inside on a blue blanket. Joby pulled down her pants. At daylight, when he woke her, his anger was gone. He fashioned a bed underneath a tree with a blanket. "Come on, let's pray."
Ew.
Tracy told him.
Oh, okay.
"Ask God to forgive you for what you've done." Joby told her he loved her so much because she was so down to earth, the kind of girl he didn't have to impress. He said he always did want to marry her, though he had never really come out and asked. Now, on that blanket under the tree, it was time. He had brought the wedding band that matched the ring he had given her. He put the ring on my finger, Tracy recalls. He said he knew it wasn't a good timing and it ain't never going to happen, but he wanted to ask me anyway, and I said yes, that I would, and I cried. He then took off his necklace with the golden baby ring that had been intended for their first child and put it around her neck, and he asked Tracy to tell his mom that he loved her. On the blanket again, they had sex. I don't know if I'd call it sex. Numb, certain he would soon kill her, Tracy prayed silently over and over.
It can still be rape.
Yeah.
It still is rape.
Right. Please, God, I'm not ready to go. Please, God, spare my life. Joby told her that he was afraid to go back to jail and he would rather be dead. You wouldn't have gotten much time and I would have visited you, Tracy told him. But now you've killed 3 people and it's over. No, he said, you would have married somebody else and gone on something life. It's blurred out. I can't see it.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so Tracy convinces Joe to leave the woods, get more food. They were drinking from a hose behind a house in Chase, Maryland. When the owner came from the house, Joe pulled out his gun and the man ran to the street trying to wave down a motorist for help. In response, Joe started firing at the passing cars and hit 2-year-old Gregory Sims in the jaw. He ended up being okay.
Oh, thank God.
But fatally wounded his mother, Jennifer.
Oh, my God.
Yes. Yes. Joe stole the car of the homeowner and forced Tracy inside. I wasn't sure of this connection, but somehow that car is gone and then he robs like an old lady of her car. But he ends up taking Tracy to a motel, and that was when Tracy was finally able to make her escape and go get help. 3 days after her escape, she learned that Joe had stolen guns in Virginia and had forced a man to drive him back to Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
So, gets back up to Baltimore. Somehow, like a neighbor of his mom or a friend of his mom, something, he gets a gun, drives to Tracy's mom's apartment that she was living in with her boyfriend and his son, and holds them hostage. So, for the next 97 hours, the world watched as the police tried to negotiate with Joe. He kept asking to talk to Tracy, but they knew that if they let him talk to Tracy, and that if they let him talk to Tracy, he would let everyone go. But the police knew better. They were all too familiar with the calm side of Joe, and nothing he said could be taken seriously. They knew that as soon as they let him do that, that he would have killed everyone inside. They knew Joe wanted to kill Tracy's mom and have Tracy live to suffer.
Oh, God.
They knew that because that was something that Joe had already threatened Tracy with once before.
Mm-hmm.
So the police had been creating plans, practicing in neighbors' apartments, trying to find the best way in without anyone else getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Joe had already killed 4 people and they didn't want any more casualties. They wouldn't be left with much choice because the hostages inside were coming up with a plan of their own. So Tracy's mom had decided to crush up some pills, some Xanax, and put it in the water. And he fell asleep on the couch. So she escapes through the window, runs to police. Soon after, her boyfriend also escapes, runs to police, leaving his son asleep on the kitchen floor. Now, before you're like, why the fuck would you leave your kid? They have a good point. They were worried that if they woke him, like in typical kid fashion, he would ask what was going on, what's happening, and then therefore wake up Joe. So they figured this was the best bet because where Joe was in relation to where the kid was, he could see him.
Right.
Which I think was on purpose. They told the police that they had to go in and get their son because if Joe woke up, he would most definitely kill him.
Right.
They gave the police the lay of the land and the location of where Joe was. Police entered the apartment and startled Joe and the boy awake. And because police couldn't see Joe's hands, there was a blanket over them, and knew that this was a hostile situation, they immediately shot him.
Yes.
Autopsy later showed that he was shot 27 times.
Damn.
By police.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And at one point, I was like reading what his mom had said, and like she wasn't necessarily condoning the behavior, and she would say how she would tell him that he was wrong and that wasn't okay. Occasionally, his anger, he took out on her once or twice before.
Mm-hmm.
But even after all that, right at the end, she goes, but I just don't understand why those girls had to make him so angry.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I mean, no, but.
What were they wearing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Pretty much. When news spread that Joe was dead, that would be a fun little rhyme. Most breathed a sigh of relief. Amy could finally post her whereabouts on the web if she wished to. 21-year-old Lisa Anderson had asked to sleep in her mom's bed when she had heard of Joe being on the run.
Oh.
Stacy and her parents watched as the ending of Joe's life unfolded on TV in front of them. So some of the questions that the reporter included in the, what I like to call the old-fashioned tell-all in the newspaper, it said, why couldn't this man have been stopped long ago? Why had this young woman, Tracy, endured such a nightmare? Why were 4 other victims forced to pay the price for Joby's unchecked violence? The leading prosecutor asked himself these questions, not understanding how this could have happened. He even went so far as to say, the system worked.
I'm sorry.
He was in and out of psychiatric care, so why hadn't any of the counseling worked?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a letter that Tracy brings to his mom.
Okay.
Being that she had a really close relationship with her and, feels bad.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to hear the letter?
Of course I would like to hear the letter.
Okay.
What would you have said if I said no?
I would not have read the letter.
Oh. Yes, I would like to hear the letter.
Okay. And there is this teeny tiny part where you can very much hear the, quote, battered woman in Pat.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, she growing up, her father was abusive. It didn't say anything about any of his dads being abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it was like, when I first saw it being a mental health thing, I was like, okay, when is that going to come? Like, I was expecting like some sort of child abuse, some sort of trauma that never, and like they really right at the end just throw in the brain, like the head injury.
Mm-hmm.
It's like shows up once.
Yeah. To try to explain
in
it.
an actual legitimate article.
And so who's this letter being written to who?
So this is a letter that Tracy has to give to his mom.
Okay, so she wrote it to give to Pat.
No. He wrote it.
He wrote the letter to give to Pat.
Yeah, hold on. There's a explanation as to the explanation of why there's a letter.
Okay.
So they're at the house. And this is what it says. The young woman, meaning Tracy, gave Miss Pat, mom, her new phone number. And Pat showed Tracy her son's death certificate in his last letter, written March 17th in the house where he hid before seizing his hostages on Lane Street. So I guess he was in a house before. So I'm sorry. It's the mom showed Tracy.
Okay.
Yeah, my bad. It's to the mom showed Tracy.
Okay.
Dear Mom, it's 3:15 p.m. and I just broke into another person's house. I've got a .357 Magnum and I think it's a little parts, the edges are blurry. Ruger 10-22? I don't know. Couple guns. And a few other guns. I'm sure you don't want to hear that, Mom. Please don't be upset with me considering I made the choice. Yeah, I had so much to look forward to. I know I've been sleeping in the woods and it's been cold, especially when it rained and I was all wet. Mom, I didn't mean to shoot Gloria and George. If only they kept sitting down, I wouldn't have shot them.
Oh my God.
I felt bad and then like for 2 seconds.
I didn't feel bad at all.
I read that and I was like,
no, I didn't feel bad at all.
So I was hoping that there would be accountability.
Mm-hmm.
It was not.
No, of course not.
I feel bad for those families. The other guy surprised me, and out of reaction, I shot him. Mom, when Dad killed himself, something inside me changed. So, sidebar, his mom got divorced from his stepfather, and then his stepfather killed himself. Yeah. Then when Tracy left, that's all it took. I'm sure someone will write a book, make a movie about me. Mom, please tell the family I'm sorry about this mess. I really am. And that's apparently underlined. I know living without me in your life will be difficult, but try to live it. I don't mean to hurt you. Please forgive me. I know a lot of people who love me are disappointed. I'm sorry. Well, I love you all. Love, Joseph, 007.
Ew.
The two women stood there together with their letter. When one began crying, so did the other. Then Pat Long hugged Tracy Whitehead so hard she could feel both their hearts beating. Gotta remember, She was in a relationship with her son for like 2 years. She was very close with the mom.
Yeah.
She's still, well, from this news article in 2000, it was in July of 2000, so it was April, May, June, 4 months later.
Mm-hmm.
She was still wearing the necklace with the ring. But it's also like in context, it's 4 months later.
Right.
So like when you think about the timing of when this was written and when it all happened, because it happened in March.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense as to why she would have done that.
Gross.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Whew. I didn't like this.
Yeah.
And it's wild too. Like, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of this before.
And when I first started reading it and then like realized how many victims he had, I was like, okay, I thought maybe I shouldn't do like another one. But I was like, this one,
Another one.
But this one, I was like, you know what? There are so many people that always say, well, you could just leave.
Right.
And people have tried to explain it's not that simple.
You can't.
And this is exactly why.
Mm-hmm.
While no, this is not going to happen in every single situation, but
aspects of it will.
The threats of this happening will 100%
absolutely
be real. And so put yourself in this person's shoes. You've seen this person get angry. You know they're capable of hurting you. And then now on top of it, they're threatening your family.
Mm-hmm.
You fully believe that they are capable of doing that because of what they've done to you. So instead of blaming the victim, essentially.
Yeah, why didn't you leave?
Right.
Maybe focus on the person who didn't let them leave.
It is high fucking time that we start holding
men
accountable and to a higher fucking standard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this shit's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
No offense, Joe. You're a good Joe. This guy, not a good Joe.
Jeez.
I'm by Joby.
Yeah, ew.
But yeah, so, some hotlines.
Yes.
So the National Domestic Abuse Hotline is 800-799-7233, and that's 24/7. Languages, English, Spanish, and 200 more through interpretation services. You can also text START in all caps to 88788. If you're in Maryland, there is I don't know if it's like a .org.
Mm-hmm.
Seems some sort of organization, but it's called 211 Maryland. And so what it does is you can dial that and it will bring you to some sort of information referral specialist 24/7, 365 that will send you where you need to go and help you make the choices of what needs to happen. And it can be domestic violence, family violence, sexual assault, restraining or protective order, human trafficking, child abuse or neglect, or adult abuse or neglect.
Wow.
So,
and just know, if you're in a situation like this, we support you. We're here for you. We want the best for you.
This is why we tell these stories.
Please find help.
Because it's, it's part of the argument. You want to say that, oh, you can just leave? Well, yeah, you could, but then this might happen.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, again, let's not blame her. This was 100%. This guy should not have been around.
Absolutely.
Like,
it's never her fault.
The fact that he kept getting released out on bail, I'm like, obviously he's a flight risk.
Obviously he's been doing this.
Because he's done it before.
Right.
Number one. Number two, he keeps going to jail for the same shit. And it was that one judge was the only one that said something.
Ridiculous.
It's
because he was a pretty white male.
Looks like a jarhead.
Yeah, he does.
It's just, yeah, it's infuriating that we're still having this conversation. Like, in general, just stop being an asshole. Like, if that's all you can think of to do as part of entertainment for yourself or what you think might be entertaining for others, please find a hobby.
Like knitting.
Like knitting. Something maybe calming.
Well, hopefully you're just as mad as us.
Yeah.
So we'll keep this short. Follow us on all the things.
Always on all the things.
Stay scary.
Stay very safe.
Very, very safe.